video is going to walk you through just a couple of the things that we need to include in our understanding about powers and exponents. So we went through the information on what it means to have an exponent, talking about the base, looking at what an exponent is telling us. We're going to do just a couple more examples. We did one example, and if you can label that as example 1, we're going to go through example 2 and 3 here together now. So just making sure we're careful about what we're plugging in here. We're going to plug in, and I'm going to go ahead and put these in parentheses just for good practice. Sometimes the parentheses will make a difference and sometimes they will not, but make sure you're careful about A and B there. In this case, the parentheses here, I'm just grouping 5 and I'm grouping -2. Those parentheses don't really do a whole lot, but I am going to start inside of parentheses here because I have an operation inside of this larger group. So my operation of addition, 5 and -2 are different signs. So I'm going to subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. 5 plus -2 gives me 3. And 3 to the third power means 3 times 3 times 3, which would give me 27. So on this one, I got an answer of 14. On this one, I got an answer of 27. For example 3, I'm going to plug in, again in parentheses, plug in 3/4, and I'm going to be squaring 3/4. So thinking about order of operations, I don't, for parentheses, I just have 3/4 grouped together. There's not any operation to do inside of 3/4. So I'm going to do, my next priority would be exponents. My priority here would be 3/4 to the second power. So 3/4 to the second power means 3/4 times itself, so 3/4. And to multiply fractions, I multiply numerators and multiply denominators. I checked to see if there was any cross canceling could happen before. There wasn't. So this problem is, sorry, I just need to move my camera down. This problem will be 2 minus, and 3/4 squared became 9/16. 2, I need to have a common denominator of 16. So 2 was 2/1. 2/1 is 32/16. So I'm doing 32/16 minus 9/16, which means my final answer should be 23/16, or I'd also accept 1 and 7/16. Either one of those answers would be my final answer. So order of operations, we're throwing in exponents too, so we have to kind of take those into consideration as well. Okay, so I'm going to get our focus in order here. Sorry for that momentary change there, but you're going to have this page that you cut out from the notes, and notice I have this kind of in the center of my page. You need a little bit of a border around, so you might need to trim this page down a little bit more before gluing it in. But this is an important kind of detail piece that's going to become more useful when you're dealing with a little bit more high-level exponent information. And that is that exponents, just because this says 7x to the 4th, doesn't mean that everything in my expression is part of this 4th power. So identifying what the base of the problem is, the base is what's going to be repeated. So if you go back to the previous page where we had the vocabulary, the base is the part that's actually going to be repeated. And so exponents apply to only the base. They only apply to the part, the base is actually only the part of what they directly touch. So applying here, I'm going to write this just a little note here. They apply to the base. The base is what they are touching. So if I look at these different expressions, they're just showing the different ways that these could be arranged, and so we can make sure we're identifying the correct thing that's getting the power, the correct part that's getting the power. So if I have 7x to the 4th, the exponent here, as explained, is that the exponent is only touching the x, because 7x to the 4th could actually be rewritten as 7 times x to the 4th. So the exponent really is only touching the 4, or sorry, the exponent is only touching the x. So when I write this out, what this is going to look like is the 7 is not going to be repeated, but the x is going to be repeated 4 times, because that is what the exponent is actually directly touching. Now, if we look in the second one, the exponent is touching the parentheses. So since it's touching this group, the group is what is getting repeated the 4 times. So for this one, it's going to be 7x, and I'm just going to go ahead and repeat the parentheses to show multiplication, times 7x times 7x times 7x. So 7x is what's getting repeated all 4 times. So you can see the difference between here. What's repeating 4 times? Is it just the x's, or is it the whole thing? Now, a similar thing happens when you have negatives, and I'll show you why. Again, it's what is the exponent touching? The exponent is only touching, in this first one, is only touching the 3. So we could rewrite this actually. This negative sign, I'm going to rewrite this as -1 times 3 squared. The -1 times 3, that's the same thing here as this -3. The exponent is only touching the 3. So it's kind of it is confusing when you first see it, that the difference between the parentheses and not. But in this case, the 3 is what's repeating, not the negative sign, or if you want to think of it as -1, that is fine too. But the 3 repeats, the negative sign does not. For this last one, again, the exponent's touching the parentheses. So parentheses, as you can see, is very, very important. The parentheses are being touched by the exponent, so what's inside the parentheses is what's going to get repeated. So -3 is repeating twice. Now notice, what's the difference going to be in these two? It's going to be a big difference. This answer, negative times positive is negative. This answer would be a negative times a negative. So that parentheses is essential to what our outcome is going to be. So it's a detail that we have to pay attention to. Now, down below, there's some matching. I'd like you to pause the video and see what your matching comes up with, and then restart it so you can see if you came up with the right answers. So for matching, the parentheses is, the exponent is touching the parentheses, so we're going to repeat the whole thing. So number 1 should match up with letter D. For number 2, the 3a inside the parentheses is being touched by the exponent. So that means the 3a is repeating, but not this negative sign outside. So this should match up with letter C. For number 3, you might want to rewrite this. This is -3 times a squared. The squared is only touching the a, so the a is the only thing repeating. So that would be letter B. And then for number 4, the squared is only touching the 3. There's no parentheses here, so this should be letter A. So if you have that matching done, the next step here is the other part that you cut out for this entry. And I'm going to show you how to start it. And hopefully you have enough room. If not, then I think you can probably improvise and find some way to make this work in your notebook, on your notebook page. You're going to take the pieces that you cut out, and it's kind of like a domino set. So I'm going to start this, and I'd like you to start the same piece. This was the first piece in your set up at the top left. So what's going to happen is on this side, you're going to match an expression going down the page that fits this -8z being repeated 4 times. On the right side, you're going to match a set that goes with a negative and then 4 squared. So I'll put the first piece on and then show you the match here. The match would be what's being touched by the exponent is just the 4. So sorry, I'm getting my glue. So the 4 should repeat twice, but the negative sign does not. So if I put this across, it's saying that these two are going to match up. Now on the other side, and I'm not saying that this is the right answer because it's completely wrong, but I don't have the right answer out right this second. On the left side here, you would match up what matches with this. So if this expression, which it doesn't, matches with this, then you would go ahead and glue this here. You're going to try and, I'm not sure that we'll have the right distance, but you're going to try and match these up to go around your page the best you can. But there's only one set of correct answers that would work. So we'll go over this. We'll give you an answer key to look off of, but try this. Good luck.